right? I'm telling you, this movie, I saw it 9 o'clock in the morning at the Toronto Film Festival, 9 o'clock. And I was blown away. And, you know, I love it. You're so cool. You're so good. I can't, you know, I'm like a little, I'm kvelling. It's like Barbara Streisand, Gina Prince-Bythewood. That's how good you are. So, okay. I'll start us off with one thing, but Gugu. I mean, like, Gugu. Who saw Belle last year, our opening movie at the Athena Film Festival? That's Gugu. I mean, she's, like, spectacular. And I know you've told the story about how you had to fight for Gugu. And I think people would really love to hear a little bit about Gugu.
Sure. Well, foremost, thank you guys very much for being here. It is a very cool thing to be able to hear the film with an audience. And also, Melissa's been such an incredible champion from Toronto the moment it first screened. So thank you tremendously for everything. Gugu. Well, honestly, they say your talent as a director is in your choices. And Gugu was my choice. She made me look very, very smart. When I first started writing this, I thought I wanted a musical artist. And there was one actually attached to it. She got pregnant and then
Who is she?
Then had some reservations about whether people would think that this was her story, and she ended up dropping out, which was devastating at the time because I was at a studio, the only studio that optioned the script, and option doesn't even mean you're going to make it, just means they'll pay you not to take it anywhere else for a year and see if you could develop it. So she dropped out. I'm freaked out because the studio only wanted a musical artist. I started thinking about some of my favorite music films like Coal Miner's Daughter and Walk the Line, and the thing that those films had, they had actors at the forefront, and so I decided to start looking for an actor. Started looking for some. My casting director, props to her, suggested a woman named Gugu, and this is before Belle. This is 2 years ago. So the only thing she had done was that small part in Larry Crown and Undercovers, which lasted about 6 seasons. And so there was nothing I had ever seen her in that I thought, oh my God, that's her. But Aisha Coley, amazing casting director, who also did Selma, she's amazing. She pushed me to see her, and so I said, okay. And Gugu came in, and this is, sorry to backtrack for a second, but Sony, again, only wanted a musical artist. So when I started looking for actors, they were not going to pay for the casting director, which is a great thing when you do a couple films because then you create relationships with crew. One was Aisha Coley, and so when I could call her and say, can I have some help, which AKA means, can you work for free? But knowing that I would hire her, she jumped aboard and helped, and I had to pay just for the venue of where we were casting, and oh my God, this place was a dump. And I was really thinking about, what is this actress thinking coming in? It was this, if you've ever been to LA, it's this crazy place off La Brea. So she came in, crappy little place, and she started auditioning, and I saw the movie. It was an amazing moment as a director. And I was like, in my mind, it's like, is this really happening? I'm seeing the character. And then the second part of her audition, she had to sing Blackbird by Nina Simone. And I was just praying, could she at least just hold a note? Could I have something to build on? I didn't know she came from musical theater. And she sang it, and she knocked it out. And I had filmed that audition, ran home, showed my husband, who's producer on it, like, are you seeing what I think I just saw? He got it, and then it was just then, okay, I'm excited to show Sony. Go to show Sony, set up a live audition, and actually asked Nate, who had nothing to do with the project, but he was on my short list. I knew I wanted him. Called him up, can you do me a favor and just do this live audition, because I'm trying to sell this actress to Sony. They do the audition. I saw a spark between them immediately. The audition went really well, and I thought I was good. And then I get this call that Sony is not going to make the movie with these two unknowns, and that was it. They dropped it. So once again, oh my God, it's dead. And my husband, brilliant producer, said to me, if money was no object, what would you do to sell this movie? And I said I would shoot a presentation to showcase Gugu. So put together $5,000, called up some friends for help, AKA, would you work for free? And honestly, everybody, I was paid $100. And I had great people. Bradford Young, the DP, he came aboard.
Selma now also.
Yes. Terry Shropshire, who edits all my films and edited this. Preston Holmes was the producer. I got the camera for free. And we shot it in one day, though Gugu and I rehearsed for about 2 weeks, rehearsed her singing Blackbird and rehearsed the dancing. And actually in the master's class, I'm actually going to show for the first time the presentation that I shot. And we shot
tomorrow at 3.
Tomorrow at 3. And it turned out great. Gugu was phenomenal in it. And what was amazing about that process is that it connected us. You know, Gugu and I were still new in terms of our relationship, director, actor. But it really proved to her I wasn't going to exploit her in this role. But it also showed me how far she was willing to go for this character because she believed in the vision and what we were trying to say. And the outfit actually that she wore in the music video, here's what she wore in the presentation. So the second she put that on, I was like, okay, she's a real deal. Shot the presentation. Gugu was phenomenal in it. We went back to all the studios that turned us down and said, we have this great presentation. Plus, we have a couple $1 million from BET who had seen the presentation and said, if you can find a studio, we'll put some money into it. So I thought I was golden now. And went back to all the studios and got a little closer to a couple, but ultimately they kept saying Gugu's not a star and we can't bank millions of dollars on her.
And do you think it was also that it was about a woman, and it was about a woman of color, directed by a woman of color? I mean, all these things the boxes that you tick in Hollywood.
Well, I personally don't think it had to do with me being a woman of color or a female. It had to do with the film was about
okay.
a woman of color with a love interest who was black, because that was an issue that had come up in some of the studio meetings where they asked, would you cast the male lead white? And it was just something I didn't want to do. I felt like no one asked The Notebook to cast it any differently, and and I love The Notebook. I go and watch it. I've watched it too many times. I'm not going to say, but you look at Ryan and Rachel. I fall in love with them. It doesn't matter the color. I care about the characters, and that's what I'm hoping people can do with my work as well. Is just fall in love with the characters. So. We went again to every studio, got turned down again, and I thought it was dead again. And this is now going on 2 years, and it's soul crushing. Trust me, to be in a room and to have this thing so clear in your head, and for people to be so bold to say, if you cast it a different way, we could make it. But everything happens for a reason, and it brought me to Relativity, which was a smaller studio who they saw the presentation. It was the very first people who said, we see what you see in Gugu. We think she's a star. Who do you want to cast as a male lead? I said, Nate. Oh, we love Nate. I was like, wow, this is really happening in this room here. And we sold it in the room. The budget was much lower. It's funny, at Sony, it was $20 million. And then when it was very close at Searchlight, it was going to be $12 million. By the time we got to Relativity, it was $7 million. But I got to make the movie, and you figure it out. And the beautiful thing, again, is this whole process. There were so many people instrumental, most importantly my husband. But what Gugu and I talk about is that over this 2-year period, we got to develop the character of Noni. But also we never said to ourselves, if we get to make this film, it was when we get to make this. And it was almost as if we were manifesting it to happen, and gratefully it did.
Oh, I'm going to ask just, kind of one more thing. So it's nominated. Firstly, the thing to understand about Gina is Gina has employed women at all levels of her movie. Her editor's a woman. Her DP's a woman. Less than 2% of DPs are women.
Tammy Riker, badass.
Music.
Yeah, music supervisor, production designer.
And you're nominated for an Oscar for this movie. So I guess, there have been ups and downs with the movie, with the release and everything. And the fact that I feel like, your movie has gotten this huge reception kind of post-release, which is so intense and never happens. Like your movie crest went out kind of thing, and now it's cresting. Yeah. So it's like, what does that feel like to have, it happen and then all of a sudden happen again? It's bittersweet, it must be.
Yeah, I don't know if it's bittersweet. All right. It was.
Come on, tell us the truth.
No, it's a strange thing. You learn from every movie, and I feel like I've become much smarter with this film. And that is that prior to release, we had great previews, and the previews is when you show to recruited audiences, and they all grade it. And we had huge numbers, but not just numbers just with women, but with men. We're like 1 point less than the women, which was phenomenal. And teenagers all the way up to 50, 60-year-olds, we got an A cinema score, which means that every single quadrant, every single segment of audience gave it an A. Our word-of-mouth screenings were great. We got great reviews coming out of Toronto. There was no reason why it shouldn't have done well. And my God, that opening weekend, it was like, what the fuck happened? It was really tough. And I know what happened in terms of marketing. And it's a tough thing when you make a film with people of color, and it's just so bizarre. It's like the second you put more than one black person in a movie, it becomes a black film. But for my work, I made Love and Basketball. I wanted it. It's a love story.
And one of the best.
Thank you.
Always watchable. It's on TV. I'm like, oh, Love and Basketball, great. I'm sitting here for 2 hours.
It's like, it has people of color, but it's a universal story. And that's what I felt like with this. But the perception and the way it was sold, it went back to that same tired paradigm of you sell a film the exact same way. And it didn't matter the response we got out of Toronto, which was 99% white. And then 2 weeks later, we did Urban World, which was 99% black. It was the same reaction. And for me, it's like, why leave money on the table? Just market a film to everybody. And that didn't happen, and it was really painful. So it's very strange. It was a beautiful thing. I wish it didn't happen so late. And again, props to you. You came out of Toronto, and you were there. We had such amazing journalist champions about 2 months too late,
right.
Banging the drum. One for Gugu's performance. Gugu, the fact that she did Belle and Beyond the Lights in the same year, I think any other actress would have been like exalted. And she just put so much work into this park, 6 months of training, dance training, vocal training. It's so not her and what she created. So that was really tough. People, again, all the top 10 lists that we landed on, of course, it's flattering. That's what you want, critical and commercial success. But I guess the key is now the DVD is coming out February 24th, so let's hope this groundswell, leads to the DVD.
No, I think it's going to be huge. So let's hear from some people in the audience. I know we have some mics out there. Can we lower the stage a little bit so we can, yeah, thank you. Where's any mic, Brad?
Excuse my language, by the way.
You're not allowed to hold the mic.
I'm just going to direct it.
It's okay.
All right. One of the things that I really liked about the film, that I think is really important about the film, is its critique of the music world, which I think has really gone awry from authentic to inauthentic. And I think you really captured that. What did you do to think that process through, to research it? Did you have people in mind that you've had issues with, musically? Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Foremost, I love hip hop and R&B. Like that's the music I listen to, But I don't love where it's going right now. There's two things. There seems to be a competition with the hypersexuality and who can push the envelope the furthest. I mean, you've got Anaconda coming out, and then a week later you had, is it called Booty? Jennifer Lopez
I'm not the right person
song.
to ask.
Like those two videos, it just felt ridiculous. But I also have two boys, 10 and 13, and the amount of radio that they can listen to is so minimal. I'm constantly like, no, that's not appropriate. No, that's not appropriate. And I just want the conversation to change. The other thing is that blueprint that young female artists have to follow, not just in R&B, but pop as well. I mean, you look at Miley Cyrus, and she came up one way, and then she became a joke, and then she followed the blueprint, and she's one of the biggest artists today. And it is that pushing the hypersexuality to get noticed, to make noise. But if it's not authentic to you, you have to live that life 24/7, which is exhausting and it's dangerous. And you see so many of these young artists struggling with mental illness because of it. And there's just been too many stories of artists contemplating suicide or actually committing suicide. And again, it was just trying to change the conversation, not shake a finger at the industry, because there are people like Beyonce who I think it is authentic to her. And again, thank you, Beyonce, for Drunken Love. So it's just my issues when it's not authentic to you and you're being pushed by others as opposed to yourself into that persona.
Well, you also just gave a critique of kind of like how women are treated and how we need to think about this. It's a really important issue about sexuality.
No, absolutely. One thing I forgot that you did ask, I did a ton of research for the film, and I'm very fortunate to know artists and have met artists, and they were very honest with me, and there are some that succumbed to what they were pushed to and others who fought against it. But even those that fought against it, like Alicia Keys, there was a time where she was on the fence because she was being pushed so hard to go a different way. But you just remember, what did we love about Alicia when she came out was that voice and singing Fallen, and thank God that she hung on to that.
Other questions? Right in there. This is one of the women who came from China, right? Am I right? For the Athena Film Festival. Wow. China. How cool are they?
Global.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Gina and Myra. And first, I want to thank you because the movie is so mind-blowing. And I can feel what the characters feel. And I have a question, and I assume that this film is based on some true phenomenon or true feelings, true experiences. So when you create this film, do you prefer to, how to say, do you prefer to review the reality as much as you can, or to create a artist version?
No, great question. Every film I've done has been about something that was going on in my life, and this one was no different. There were two big things I was dealing with at this time, which was someone very close to me tried to commit suicide, and in trying to understand, thankfully they changed their mind halfway through, got help in time. They had taken pills, and in trying to understand like what happened, just in the research, it was fascinating to know that just through evidence that they say at least 50% of people who try to commit suicide change their mind halfway through. And sometimes they can, and sometimes it's too late. So ultimately, the theme of this film is choose life, and that's the story I wanted to tell, and what I hope people get out of the film. And then the other was, as Susan touched on in her speech today, was just me finding my birth mother, who was white. And you know, I think most adoptees have a fantasy of what that reunion is going to be like, and it was not that, unfortunately. It was very difficult to find out the circumstances of my birth, and much of this film is really a projection of what it would have been like if this woman had raised me, to be raised by somebody who would not have given me unconditional love, who resented and loved me at the same time, and that's really what the Macy lonely relationship is. So, you know, for all the writers out there, writing is great therapy, and it can truly help you get past things, and these were things I needed to deal with personally, and really just in having a voice and how important it is to have a voice as well.
What are you thinking about to do next?
Another personal thing.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's late, and we have one more question right over there. Last question. Well, I think we're kind of streaming this. So, hi, Internet. So pretty at night.
Hey, Jenna, congratulations on the film. I just want to ask one question. Let me go to my phone. What has it been for your self-growth in terms of directing a movie with two lead characters of color, but not portraying the stereotypical cliches we usually see on films of black people?
What has the journey been? I mean, it's been a great journey, I have to say, and again, I hope that people, in terms of, if you look at my body of work, that's definitely what I'm trying to do, is just portray our humanity. And especially with love stories, there's a perception out there, a very dangerous perception among our community and also with the world, that black people don't love each other, that we don't fight for each other. And that's really what I want to put out in the world. And we can be portrayed, it's just humanity. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be about race. The fact that this is a girl who was raised by a white mother, there's no giant speech about the damage that was done. It's just a reality. It's just about that, just portraying, in this case, what my reality was, but it's others as well. But again, the films are not about race. It's enough that the characters are people of color and again, showing our humanity.
So we have one more day of the Athena Film Festival tomorrow. We have some works in progress. We have Gina's masterclass at 3. And so we hope you come back. And we have our closing film, De Fret, at 6 o'clock tomorrow. You shouldn't miss that. It's amazingly beautiful.
It does look
Executive
dope.
produced by Angelina Jolie. So we hope to see you one more day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Gina.